curve there, I feel like.
Your
This
email's
is a
in-
problem.
your
To
email-
the
our
public,
email's
right?
not in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That I have no,
you're in
this
the
I have no
private.
problem.
All right, can you please
It's
rise
the
and join me in the
computer.
Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you and good evening. Tonight is Tuesday, January 23rd. It's about 7:40. We just came from executive session where we discussed appointments to Intermunicipal Airport Master Plan Task Force, which we approved at our last meeting. All right. Our first thing on the agenda, our first item on the agenda is a public hearing. Public hearing on local law amending Chapter 240, Section 240-24 of the Village Code regarding the removal of illegally parked cars at Garibaldi and Ellendale parking lots.
Just open the public.
Yeah, so I think, so first, can I please have a motion and a second to open the public hearing?
Second.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. The public hearing is hereby opened. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak
Come on.
on this potential, on this potential?
And this just allows us to
Well-
remove, because these are permitted spaces, just allows us to give warnings too, but we try to locate, but when it's repeated, we need to do something to be able to get that, get the cars removed because, people are paying for those spaces. There's currently 8 locate parking spots on Ellendale and 18 on the Garibaldi parking lot.
Thank you, Chris. And I know we discussed this as we were setting the public hearing. It's something that, we want to do, we're able to do, but we don't have signage and we don't have it in our code, so we need to make sure that this is in the code. So, seeing no comments from the public, can I have a motion and second, please, to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Let's move right into the resolution. Resolution number 1, considering a proposed local law amending Chapter 240 of the Village Code regarding the removal of illegally parked cars in the Garibaldi parking lot and the Ellendale parking lot.
Whereas the Village of Rye Brook owns a municipal parking lot in Garibaldi Place and an off-street parking area off Ellendale Avenue, whereby the village issues overnight parking permits to a limited number of parking spaces, and whereas the village is considering a local law amending Chapter 240 regarding authorizing the removal of illegally parked cars in the Garibaldi lot and the Ellendale parking lot, and whereas a public hearing was held on January 23rd, allowing anyone interested to be heard in this matter, and the hearing was closed on the same day. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Rye Brook Board of Trustees hereby approves the proposed local law amending Chapter 240 regarding the authorization of the removal of illegally parked cars in the Garibaldi parking lot and the Ellendale parking lot.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
Second.
Any questions or comments from the board?
My only comment is that I want to make sure that we give a final warning to those cars before we tow them. We're going to put those signs on their cars, right? Okay. Got it.
Yeah. I know we try and avoid it as much as we possibly can, but if something's been parked there for days or weeks on end,
Absolutely.
yeah. Other questions, comments?
Nope.
Okay.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 2, considering an intermunicipal agreement between the Village of Rye Brook and the Portchester School District for a school resource officer.
Whereas the Village of Rye Brook and the Portchester School Board are both interested in establishing a school resource officer, otherwise known as an SRO, and whereas under the terms of the proposed municipal agreement, Rye Brook would provide 1 police officer to rotate between Portchester High School and the Portchester Middle School on school days, and the Portchester School District would provide payment to the village for these SRO services. And whereas on January 18th, 2024, the Portchester School Board unanimously approved the intermunicipal agreement establishing the SRO program. Now therefore be it resolved that the Rye Brook Board of Trustees hereby approves the intermunicipal agreement between Rye Brook and the Portchester School District establishing the SRO program at the Portchester High School and Portchester Middle School, subject to any modifications approved by council. Be it further resolved that the mayor, police chief, and administrator are authorized to sign and execute any and all necessary documents to accomplish the purpose of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second? Second.
So, I guess a little bit, well, before we get a little backward, but for those members of the public potentially wondering why the Village of Rye Brook is having a police officer serve as the school resource officer in the Portchester schools, it is because the Portchester High School and the Portchester Middle School both reside in the Village of Rye Brook. And so that's why we are having our officer. And I want to thank Officer Lazala for volunteering for this assignment. I think this is a way that we can really help out in those schools and really do some great community policing and having the kids get to know them and really and spending time there. So, do you want to add background?
I just add a little bit more, sure. This is something that the Chief Austin has been working as part of a committee with the Portchester School District, also the Village of Porchester's working on something similar in their community for the schools located in the Village of Portchester. But thanks to the chief, he's able to work it out and work out an agreement. And there's been, we've had several executive sessions on the topic. And what this is doing is starting February 5th of this year, we will be providing the school resource officer in both that would rotate between the middle school and the high school. That's going to be through the balance of this school fiscal year. Through the rest of the school year, they're going to be providing a fee at $140 an hour, which is the rate we currently receive for other types of contracted jobs. And then for the next school year, we're going to be working towards having another officer hired for the department, not assigned to do this work, because there's going to be the current officer we expect will continue. But that officer we have to come up with a new cost-sharing agreement for the next school year. Because the reason we need to do it now at the 140 is because we're backfilling Officer Lazala's position with overtime, so those expenses have to be recovered. But we will have to work on a new rate for the September school year, the next school year, and a cost-sharing agreement. But this puts it in place now, again, starting February 5th. And we're excited about the program. We're really looking forward to it. And I think it's a great opportunity for both the village and the school district. Greg, anything else you want to add?
So having the ability to do this is very exciting for me, because when I came on the police department in 1988, the village was forming a youth officer position. And the youth officer position was a third detective that would have responsibilities in all the schools, Brook and Portchester, and would deal mainly with youth cases and issues that deal with youth, be specifically trained. We had that position. It was a position I held in 1996. I was a youth officer for 2 years. But it was always the goal to continue to move forward and to enhance the youth officer position. We did that with DARE in 1993, and our ultimate goal was to have a school resource officer in all the schools. Throughout the years, we've been talking with the Portchester High School principal about having one in the high school, and it never really got any traction until this year with Dr. Henriquez. It's something that she wanted to do from her experiences at other school districts, that she felt that this was something that was beneficial. So this is what we're doing. And throughout the summer, we had meetings with parents. Surveys were done through parents to gauge their interest, and everyone was overwhelmingly supportive of this program. And something that we did in our committee meetings was we developed a set of goals that that will be what the youth officer is working, the school resource officer is working to accomplish. And there are 18 school districts in Westchester County that have school resource officers, and none of these school districts has written goals like we designed. So we feel that this program has structure. This there's goals in place to work toward, and objectives to meet those goals, and metrics to see if we're achieving these goals. And I think that this is really going to be something that is beneficial and unique for Rye Brook, and I think it's something that will really be an asset to the department, and something that we really can be proud to have this program. So,
Great.
I'm very happy that we're going to be doing this.
And just to add, as mentioned in the resolution, this agreement was already approved by the Portchester School Board, so it was unanimous. And now, assuming the board adopts the same, we're ready to move forward now with the
Yes.
program. And,
Yep.
and you should mention the Officer Lazala also went through extensive training a few months ago.
Yes, this summer, Officer Aurelvis Lazala, he joined our department in 2020. He was previously with the New York State Park Police, and he was assigned at Roberto Clemente State Park in New York City. He grew up in White Plains and graduated from White Plains High School, and had firsthand experience with a White Plains police officer, school resource officer. And he credits the school resource officer for putting him on certain paths. He tells a story of how when he was getting ready to graduate high school, the school resource officer asked him, "What are you going to do?" He says, "I'm probably going to go to WCC." And he says, "No, you could go to a four-year school." And and that encouraged him to do that. So he felt that that the school resource officer in White Plains was a positive role model for him, and now this is something that he wants to be able to do because he had that experience in White Plains when he was in high school.
I think it's great. I think it's definitely a well-worth program,
Yes.
for sure. I could
Yeah.
definitely see it being an asset to the village of Portchester
Thank you.
and to all those kids.
Yeah, and thank you for your hard work with this. Certainly, we also thank the Portchester School District for being willing to take this on, and it's great that someone has the initiative to want to see this through, and that's certainly a great story from Officer Lazala.
There's a lot of parent buy-in on this. There were 25 parents and teachers and staff that were on this committee that came to the meeting, so there's a lot of buy-in from this in the school.
It's
district. They're committed to making
Interesting,
this
from the meeting when we first had, I remember going to the first meeting, was a little not too sure. There was a little bit of
Yeah.
hard to understand why,
Right.
but that's good. So all these little meetings you had really brought it all together. It's
Yes,
wonderful.
yes,
It's great.
Very much so.
Yeah, really helped bring it forward.
It's great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah.
My only comment is, before I vote, is that I appreciate your passion with regard to this, and the officer's passion who's going to be there, so hopefully it will work out the way they want. And that everybody will, if it helps one person, then I guess it's worth it.
Thank you. We'll work hard to make this successful.
Yeah, and we're sure that this will be successful, and we do understand that it's, putting a little strain on the force, just in terms of we're already a little short-staffed, and then having this, and that's why we're looking to really, refill positions, get more positions onto the police force, so that we can move forward with this position and still full staff. So we're very much looking forward to being back up to full staff on the force as well.
Quick question. Will they be uniformed officers or? Oh, okay. Okay. Unarmed. Okay.
Unarmed.
Any other questions? No. Comments?
No.
Great.
Trustee Epstein, Trustee Fisher,
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 3, considering a hold harmless agreement between the Village of Rye Brook and Dan Zoo to maintain existing structures in a village drainage easement.
Whereas the Village of Rye Brook has an existing drainage easement at 5 Deer Run, And whereas the existing draining easement at 5 Deer Run is existing structures, including an outdoor barbecue kitchen, deck steps, a koi pond, retaining wall, chain link fence, and stockade fence. And whereas the owner of 5 Deer Run wishes to maintain the existing structures in the drainage drainage easement. And whereas the Village of Rye Brook wishes to enter into a hold harmless agreement with Dan Zoo to allow the existing structures to remain in the drainage easement while holding harmless and indemnifying the village, its officers, agents, contractors, and employees from and against all claims and liability for loss or damage on the premise, or any injury or to death or death of any kind or persons that may be occasioned by the location. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hold harmless agreement with Dan Zoo of 5 Deer Run to hold harmless and indemnify the village and all the people mentioned before, and all the persons that may be occasioned by location, subject to modification by council. Be it further resolved that the mayor and administrator are authorized to execute and deliver all documents necessary or appropriate to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Now, I know we had this on our previous agenda. Did we already have a motion and second on it?
So you withdrew.
Last time?
You withdrew it. So
We withdrew it, okay. So can I get a motion and second, please?
So move. Second.
Okay. So I know there is conversation for this. I believe we have someone representing, or at least a member of the public, or,
Dan Tartaglia is
Yeah.
here,
so Mr. Tartaglia, if you'd
representing
like
the
to.
property owner.
It's 9 feet.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, Dan Tartaglia, 800 Westchester Avenue, Rye Brook, New York. I'm appearing this evening on behalf of the property owner, the zoos, but they're not my clients. I'm representing actually the prior owner, the Pacellis. This was all talked about, agreed to, considered when the transaction occurred. So this came to light before this transaction occurred, before the Pacellis sold it to the zoo. In fact, there's an escrow agreement where there's still money being held back for Pacellis to legitimize and get whatever permits and variances and approvals are required. So that's kind of my role. Well, I watched the meeting the other night, and I saw it, and it was Trustee Heiser, was not here this evening, but some of you said you had questions, and so I figured I'd come tonight if you want to ask me anything about this, or if there's anything I can offer to try to clarify what it is you're being asked to do.
Yeah, and I think there were a number of questions from the board. I think most of them stem from,
What happened?
yeah, well, first of all, how this guy ended up getting built on the easement, but then also, why this didn't come up in title search, or I guess maybe it did if something's being held in escrow, that when the survey was done, we were just very concerned that a new owner had taken over this property without anything having been legalized prior to the sale.
It's highly unusual.
No.
And
Not really.
Sure it is.
So Dan, sometimes I've seen it happen where someone wants a piece of property, really wants a piece of property, and they say, okay, these things need to be resolved, so we're going to figure out a number. We're going to hold money in escrow, which I assume that your client did do,
$50,000.
$50,000 in escrow. In turn, the new buyer, the old buyer, I guess, had to get it resolved, or that money was going to get it resolved, whether it was permits, take it down, or what have you.
Correct.
And probably the title search company knew about it, not signed off on it, but said, hey, we're not going to be responsible for this, we're going to take this off our title search?
Well, no, there was one thing I did want to correct that was discussed at your last meeting. This subdivision it's old by Rye Brook
All right.
standards.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1986, 87. The village was just forming at the time. We were still using the regulations from the town of Rye.
82.
Now, when you have easements, you can have a written easement, you can have a grant of easement, an easement agreement, or you can just have a subdivision plat, and you can show the easement on the subdivision plat. And that's exactly what this did. Here's a little corner that I blew up. So this is the original subdivision plat. You see clearly here the easement. I mean, nobody's missing it. But on the notes, all it says about it is the Village of Rye Brook shall have permanent easement along lots 5, 6, and 9 for drainage and sewer line maintenance. That's all it says. So there's no prohibition in a written easement agreement from putting structures here. So as long as you're not interfering with the easement, you can put whatever you want there. And in fact, most people don't realize that where the road ends is not where the right-of-way ends. The road is what's improved, the right-of-way continues. And when people at the end of their yard put in plants, put in stone walls, they're actually planting those things in the right-of-way. So if the road ever gets expanded, or if it has to get removed, that's what'll happen, it'll have to get removed. So really, when all of this came up, it was the building department's idea with the village attorney to do the hold harmless agreement, because it really protects the village. It adds additional protections for the village. So it's not, Pacelli's didn't, they need setback variances, there's no question about it. But nothing they did in the easement area violates the easement. Am I making sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, and, having served on this board for now almost 11 years, we've seen this before where something's been built in a right-of-way, but it's typically been part of a fence, a couple of plants. This definitely is larger than anything we've seen. I think, I'm glad to hear that explanation.
But
If this were a swale, Mr. Mayor, completely different story. This is an underground culvert, and as long as what's on top of it isn't interfering with the culvert, it's not a violation. If it was a swale and there were improvements in the swale, yeah, then it's blocking.
I just don't want to give the impression that anyone with an easement can put things in their
Right,
their
that's-
easement areas, because that's not the case. Each situation can be different depending on when it was done and what the
says.
language in the easement says. So I just want to be
That's
really
what I was
clear.
trying to make up,
Yeah,
sorry.
because in other cases, it's very clear what can and can't be put in an easement area. That
And this
said,
isn't the only
what this
place
is
in the
doing
world.
is we're putting in, if the board approves it, you're putting in a license agreement which protects the village. That does not, what you're not doing is approving the things that need permits or a variance. The applicant will still have to go and receive whatever permits are necessary and whatever variances are necessary.
And when we met with the building department, they were clear that they weren't going, we don't have to go to the planning board. I think one of the questions Trustee Heiser asked was about impervious surface. There is an impervious surface variance they'll be requesting. We do have to get variances, so we do have to go to the zoning board. When I met with the building department, we need a declination letter in order to apply, and he indicated that he wasn't going to issue the declination letter until this was signed. So we're kind of in limbo also.
Are there setback requirements there too as well?
Yes, there are, I don't have them exact because I don't have a survey that I can scale off of.
Yeah.
But the building department indicated to us that, I did make a couple of calculations now. Hold on 1 second.
Isn't the survey available online?
Yeah, there's several variances it needs. One is for impervious surface.
Yeah.
One is there's a shed.
Right, it's gotta be
On
a
the other side, not in the easement area. That needs a side yard.
Yeah, 5 feet from the property line,
Right,
depending,
that
yep.
needs a couple of foot variance.
Mhm.
What did I do with this? Excuse me a second, I'm sorry.
So this is,
Barbecue slash outdoor kitchen, oh, here it is. Okay, so the impervious surface is, permitted is 5,500 square feet. The actual is 7,100 square feet, so there's 1,649 square feet.
oh, wow.
A variance for that.
That's considerable.
The outdoor
That's a lot,
kitchen needs a 6-foot setback. It's going to need a variance of about 4.3 feet. The shed and the sport court, which is on the other side of the property also.
A lot of stuff,
A lot of,
lot of stuff.
Extras.
So
Yeah,
what-
that's-
That they didn't file
How do
for.
you feel that the zoning board's gonna approve all that, and the neighbors, and it seems like a lot
it's
of,
been there probably for
Yeah.
5 years.
well, it's not that long, but okay.
It's
Um,
gonna-
Yeah,
Wow.
I guess, the bigger question also is how is this all built without permits?
Right.
Remember, it was the swimming pool was built in 1988. This man, they've owned the property since 1987.
Right.
So things were installed, the law was changed. The impervious surface, Michael, when did that even come into the code? didn't come in 87, I can
No.
guarantee you, because I went back and looked at the old Rye Town Code, and there was not an impervious surface coverage requirement, maximum requirement. So, some of the stuff may have been done, I don't know historically how everything was done, but I know a lot of the stuff has been there for a long time. And if they say no, the escrow agreement says we have to remove it.
Right. And if we did agree on this, we can also put a clause in there if it's not void if,
Well, no, if they're turned down by for their permits or the variance, then they have to remove the structure, they have to remove it from that area.
but they may give you a
Again,
variance,
some
they
of the
may give
items-
you some agreement on one thing and not the other.
Yeah, and remember, some of it is in the easement area and some of the other items are not in the easement area.
Right.
So in any of those cases, if it's allowed, then it can stay, and if it's not allowed, then it gets
It
removed.
has to be removed, and their financial,
Could you tell me what is actually in the easement area?
I'm sorry?
What is in the easement area itself? Is there any specific
The,
structure or,
the so-called outdoor kitchen,
oh,
the koi pond, and I think some fencing.
okay.
Steps, maybe, or some
Oh,
of the
yeah,
steps.
the edge of some steps coming down from the deck, I think.
Wow, a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff.
I didn't think it was that much.
Well, it's a huge impervious surface variance
Yeah.
that nobody would get today.
I don't know about that. Well,
that's not what we're
but
here
that's
for.
not, and I would say,
That's not
and
our
what I would
disagreement.
say, what I would say also is that on the variances, on the setbacks, on all of that, that's typically not something that this board would be weighing in on.
Right.
Any longer.
Exactly.
We used
That,
to.
that essentially what we'd be doing if we approve the Hold Harmless agreement is we would be referring this to the other boards.
You don't even have to refer
Essentially,
it.
no,
It's
but I mean,
required,
essentially,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what the process
They have to go there next. Yeah.
essentially is that they still need to appear before these other boards to either get approved or denied on the variances, or to take remedial actions on anything that was built, possibly being, deconstructed, or possibly adding in stormwater device. It could be. I mean, there's a lot of remedies that could potentially happen. But that's not something that we would typically be deciding on for a single property.
Right.
That's correct. That's actually, not before you tonight either. Yeah.
Right, and that's not before us. Really, all that's before us right now is the Hold Harmless agreement.
Right, and in paragraph 5 of the Hold Harmless agreement, you'll see that there's an additional requirement now that the owner not add anything else within the easement area. So what's there is there.
Add anything else,
You can't
period.
add
I was going to say, I don't think there's
He's not
room
gonna
to add anything else.
I don't think you could add an umbrella.
So what's the next step? What do we-
Kidding.
Well, it would be whether we approve or disapprove the Hold Harmless
I wish
agreement.
David were here, because I know that he would have questions.
Yeah.
But, okay.
So any other questions?
Well,
The
that's
thing is, they're going to see that we're approving the Hold Harmless agreement, and therefore, what will those boards do? So I just want to think about the chain of events if we do it that way.
No, all we're doing is, sorry, go.
That's okay. So the whole harmless agreement is just offering some protections to the village. It's not saying whether or not any of the stuff that was put up without a permit is going to get the permits or get the variances that it needs. If it's not legalized, then it'll have to be removed. If it's legalized, it's also giving you protections that, one, like he pointed out, that they can't build any other structures in the easement area, and two, that if in the future you need access to the drainage system and you need to move something that they've constructed in the easement area, that you can move it at their expense. I mean, there's provisions that you're going to give them notice and give them an opportunity to move it first, but if you need to move it, you're going to be reimbursed. So this is just providing a layer of protection for the village for the fact that something was built in the easement area. It's not saying, you're not condoning anything that happened by approving this agreement.
Okay, so it's protecting us.
Right, in no way are we opining on whether or not we think that the easement, or that the variances should be granted, or whether or not that we think any action should be taken by any board. We are simply looking at the hold harmless agreement.
Okay,
Right, and counsel for the village did also add a provision that says, in the event any of the structures are removed, the structure, the easement area will be restored. So if we don't get a variance and something has to be removed, there's already a provision in here that says that will have to be put back in its original condition, that area.
So if it does have to be removed, the provision in here says it doesn't go back in the same position it was in?
No,
You have to
it'd
restore it.
restore it.
Restore it.
Restore the easement,
Oh, right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
for example.
not restore the structure.
Structure.
That was- no. Restore the,
Make it a
Misunderstood that.
grass area, basically.
Yeah. Basically, fill it in and put grass in and
Yeah.
restore the easement.
no, and I think part of the confusion the first time this came before us, at the last meeting, was a lot of this wasn't clear about an escrow account, about whether this had come up during the transaction. A lot of this was just, okay, so a former owner had on their property done all this work outside of current code. We don't know when this was done. We don't know whether there was any knowledge by the new owner that this had been done outside, non-conforming, whether it's, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know about that, but.
When it's non-conforming.
Pre-existing non-conforming.
Pre-existing, thank you, the pre-existing non-conforming. So this, I think, adds a lot of clarity to the issue.
Yeah, and we also, which is in the backup to the agenda, we also received a memorandum from Keenan Bean about some of the backup that helped.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Right, and
since the
remember,
last meeting.
This wasn't the property owner's idea, and this wasn't my client's idea. This was the village's idea. And the building department has said to us, he will not issue the declination letter until this is either approved and signed or voted down. So it's just part of the process.
Right, and so this allows us to then get the hold harmless agreement in place,
got
allow
it.
the declination to occur, and that's when it gets kicked to the other boards,
Yep.
who can take action on it the way they would with any other property in this village.
Great. Do we vote?
Well,
Just like we keep saying the same.
make a motion to approve.
so wait, do we have a motion and second on this? I think we did before we started the conversation.
Yeah.
I think
Correct?
you did, yeah.
Okay.
You did.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
No.
no,
No.
thank you for the
Okay.
clarification.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
information.
All right.
Trustee Epstein.
Yes,
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Morlino. Yes. And Mayor Klein.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Tartaglia, for coming tonight. All right.
Look,
Moving on, resolution number 4, considering a service agreement with LightPath for internet service for 2 license plate readers.
Whereas the County of Westchester and Cablevision Lightpath entered into a First Amendment to agreement, basically the whole first paragraph of this resolution said we have an existing agreement with LightPath, and services and pricing is included in that agreement, and including a price schedule that we could work off. But whereas the Village of Rye Brook, as an interested participant, seeks to obtain certain communication services from Cablevision Lightpath pursuant to that service order that's previously approved, that's provided for this work and is governed by the agreement that was previously approved for the purpose of providing high-speed internet service for 2 license plate readers in the total monthly amount of $886. Now therefore be resolved that the Village of Rye Brook Board of Trustees hereby approves service order as governed by and subject to the master agreement for the purpose of providing high-speed internet service to 2 license plate readers in the total monthly amount of $886, and be it further resolved, the mayor and administrator are authorized to sign and execute any documents necessary to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
so moved.
Second.
Fully expect the same amount of conversation on this resolution.
Absolutely. So do we know where these are going to be?
That's for the chief to raise.
And these are new, these are not replacements?
No, these are the license plate readers that,
This is a service.
The ones that were budgeted.
ones that are
Yeah.
budgeted, they're installed. There's Westchester Avenue, Lincoln Avenue, and Ridge Street and High Street. And what we found when they were installed, they were supposed to be originally able to connect by broadband wireless through the internet, but the signal's not strong enough because not only do these readers take reads of the license plates, but it's also video, and there's not enough bandwidth to transmit the video. And that's why we need a dedicated phone line, hardwired line in.
Wow.
There's one there now, isn't there?
Yeah, they're there. They're installed. They're
No,
installed.
no, there's one right across from the cemetery right there, right?
That's one of them,
Oh, that's one of them.
right? There's one here, Ridge and King Street.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
That belongs to Westchester County.
That's not ours, right?
And then we have one at Westchester Avenue and Lincoln Avenue.
So those aren't working yet?
No, they're
Working.
working, but they're only working partially because we're able to get the license plate reads.
Yeah, right.
But we can't get the video.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. So,
So what you're doing tonight is that we have a master agreement with LightPath with pricing. So we have a service order that was given us with that pricing on it, and that's what we're asking the board to consider so that we can have the high-speed internet.
will that also trigger if we wanted to get more cameras? Would that be or you have to spend more
Now,
money?
it's
for
dedicated
more?
to that reader, right?
It's just to those
Those
cameras.
readers, okay.
It's just those readers. But we have the 3 cameras here. Portchester has cameras on King Street coming to the village. Harrison
Post Road, yeah.
has cameras on Lincoln Avenue and on Anderson Hill Road coming to the village. So we're pretty
covered, huh?
covered, yeah, coming in onto the village.
Around. Yeah, that's good. Have they been successful?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Good.
Are they identifying the trucks yet?
It'd be interesting if we ever could get a video of that.
Yes. I see those trucks on the highway all the time.
I know.
Well, that's what's scary is to see from the county how many trucks that actually go on it and get off from the warning signs.
That's
That's what's
good.
incredible.
Well,
But it's
that's-
incredible to see
Well,
how
Many,
many actually that
many
is
get on.
that
How many-
get on and get off.
How many truck drivers
Yeah.
are just plugging in an address to
Yeah.
in a phone,
And the entrance ramps that all have those signs
and
too.
they're just ignoring it?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they start and it's too late, they can't.
So
back
no,
up.
this will not help us avoid bridge
I
strikes.
gotcha, okay. The net is.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
Thank you.
No. How soon is this going to happen?
It's already in.
Then we'll set up the installation date.
Great. Great,
Trustee Epstein,
great, yes.
Trustee Fisher,
Yes.
Trustee Heiser, wait, Trustee Morlino. Yes. Mayor Klein.
Is that a test?
I didn't vote.
Mayor.
Mayor Klein.
Yes. We were going to be waiting for a while for David to say yes. All right, thank you. Resolution number 5, considering appointments to the Intermunicipal Airport Master Plan Task Force.
Whereas on January 9th, 2024, the Board of Trustees established an intermunicipal airport master plan task force to serve for a limited duration and the purpose to review the master plan supplement and seek and draft a position paper to be endorsed by the various municipal boards to present at the county as part of the public community engagement program and the master plan supplement, and 2, advise on any issues or concerns regarding the expiration and renewal of the terminal use agreement. And whereas the mayor and administrator reached out to municipal officials in Portchester, Rye City, North Castle, Rye Town, Harrison, and Greenwich, inviting them to appoint 1 or 2 members of their communities to serve on the task force. And whereas the Village of Rye Brook also has to appoint 2 members to serve on the task force. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Rye Brook Board of Trustees hereby approves Peter Schlachtis and John Mugno of the to serve as Rye Brook's representatives as members of the Intermunicipal Airport Master Plan Task Force.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
We were, I think, well, at our last meeting, we voted to create this task force. And we have gotten responses from some of the municipalities
In the
Yeah.
process.
that we've reached out to about who they would like to appoint. And we thank the other municipalities for sending some representatives to help us with this. Certainly having a combined voice is a better way, because we know that what happens at the airport affects all of these communities and others. And so, the more that we can get together and at least have a comment, we know that the county is going through the master plan process, and to be able to comment on that is in the best interest of all these communities. Clearly this doesn't set aside our own airport advisory committee and those who serve on the county's airport advisory committee. Those will still remain. This is a limited duration task force just for looking at the master plan itself.
And the two members that the board are considering are both our Rye Brook Airport Advisory Committee members.
Correct, and we thank both Peter and John for their service on the Airport Advisory Committee, but also for this as well, and I will certainly try to get to as many of these meetings as I possibly can.
So can I ask one other question as well? So we've sent it to Rye City, Portchester, North Castle, Harrison, and Greenwich, and the town of Rye.
Peter had
suggested we do a further outreach to White Plains, Mount Pleasant, and Newcastle. And I just want to see if that's something the board wants it that bigger, or doesn't want it bigger, or feels that what's there is appropriate. So I'm just trying to gauge that before I reached out.
I'm fine with reaching out to more. I think this
Yeah.
this affects residents of those municipalities as well.
Okay, I'll send that out.
Great. And then, of course, we'll have to, get the task force together once we have all.
Be another story.
And we gave an artificial deadline for that just to get it moving, so hopefully it'll be close to that date.
You're not supposed to say that out loud.
They all know, because they have all asked.
I know.
If we need another week or two, is that all right? It's fine.
Right, yes. So, yeah, we will, and then start to convene the task force. Any questions or comments?
No.
Again, we thank Peter and John for their service, both already and to come.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes, thank you, both Peter and John.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
and Mayor Klein?
Yes. Thank you. Resolution number 6, considering approval of the minutes for the meeting held on September 12th, 2023.
Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the minutes for the meeting held on September 12th, 2023.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Resolution number 7.
7 is an add-on resolution, and it has to do with electric vehicles, setting up an account for that. So consider, so if the board's okay with going forward with this resolution?
All right, resolution number 7, considering establishing a capital project and funding for the Village Hall and Garibaldi Place EV charging stations project.
Whereas the Board of Trustees approved proposals with INF Associates on January 9th to provide 4 dual-port electric vehicle charging stations, 8 ports total, at the Village Hall parking lot, and 2 dual-port charging stations, 4 ports total, at the Garibaldi Place municipal lot. And whereas, in accordance with the proposals, the cost of the planning, design, and installation of these charging stations are estimated to be $108,773, which is anticipated to be reimbursed in full through various incentives and rebates. And whereas a capital project account and funding needs to be provided to properly track these expenses for reimbursement, now therefore be resolved that the following capital fund project be established for fiscal year 23-24. And there's an account set up with the title of EV Charging Stations Installation for the current fiscal year. And be it further resolved that the capital project is funded by a transfer from the general fund designated for capital projects fund balance account to the EV Installation Village Hall and Garibaldi Place capital project. And the budgets are amended as follows. And there's basically a transfer basically from the that designated for capital fund account to a specific project in the amount of $110,000.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
Second.
And I think one of the biggest or the most important words in here are reimbursed in full.
So when this is completely done and everything is reimbursed, then we'll have another transfer back to the designated for capital projects.
Right, and something tells me at some point we're also going to have a resolution in here for the amount of probably, what is that, $1,227 to close out a capital project.
Yes.
At some point, because it's $108,773.
In case there was any
And it's
little incidentals.
$110,000,
Yeah.
so I have a feeling at some point I'll see a resolution.
And it is, and the proposal was an estimate, so you just want to give yourself a little bit of flexibility.
Right, that makes sense.
What is the timing?
Remember, it's moving a large number of municipalities, so it's not really all up to us. So it could be as early as this year or as late as next summer, I'm told.
Wow.
Yep. Remember, they're dealing with all the municipalities in the county on this one to work
No,
the
but they
program.
can physically do everyone at the same time, so I guess.
That's why,
That's why there's a large window.
yeah. And so, and actually, we
How
just.
do we move
we-
ourselves?
We just restructured both proposals so that we can move forward in an earlier queue. By the last proposal, you had same amounts, but basically was for software purchase. You can't purchase software and equipment without the physically being here. So we flip-flop that with the design and installation, so they're going to start working on that. So we'll get earlier in the queue by starting the project earlier. So we flip-flop the two.
Okay, great.
More detail than you probably care, but.
No, that's why I said, how do we expedite?
And then they do,
Obviously you are.
and then they'll do that through progress payments based on how much work they've done.
Okay, awesome.
So it's a reimbursement as a,
So you'll be able to, well, no, it's not like the other program. It's probably going to be a reimbursement more, there's a couple of different programs.
Right.
So it'll be at each stage that they finish each stage.
okay.
So you're only putting out whatever you put out?
You're going to be putting out large chunks of that for this program, unlike the NRCS, which we get reimbursed right away.
Right, right.
Okay.
All right,
But that's why we have to establish it, because you got to pay it out first and then get
Right.
reimbursed.
right. Great.
Make sure you do it.
We do.
No. We will make sure of
And
that.
also by doing it as a capital, it allows you to go from one fiscal year to the next fiscal year.
That's good.
Right.
Which, just in case it takes that long, right?
Well, it'll be fiscal years, it definitely won't be done by this May.
No,
So,
no, which is when our fiscal year ends.
yeah.
Right, okay.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Administrator's report.
Okay, just have a few items. One, the NRCS property buyout program is going well. We have 15 of 22 appraisals have now been sent to the homeowners. So we expect the rest will be done over the next week or so. And those are the ones that have been approved by the NRCS. And 3 have already sent in quick replies saying yes, that they want to continue, which is great. And nobody has said no so far. So that's all good news. The next step in that project is once all the appraisals are out, we'll have a meeting with the Nature Conservancy with all the residents that are considering it, and to get more information about that program and how it will work. So that'll be a Zoom meeting, which they know. So after that, then we start working more on towards closings and environmental reviews and all the other stuff we have to do once we know how many people are actually participating. So I think we're going to get a good number of people participating here out of the 22.
I think all.
Just mentioned, there's we've discovered a blockage on Country Ridge Drive, close to Rocking Horse Trail, near the golf course, towards the golf course. It's about 50 feet in from Country Ridge Drive. So next week there'll be workout, and we'll let the residents know right in that area. But there'll be a lot of trucks and activity next Tuesday. It's tentatively scheduled for, weather permitting, weather needs to cooperate. And so be some notifications, but you'll see a lot of activity over there for the day.
So you've informed all of the neighbors
We
in
will
that
be.
area?
We
No,
will
they
be.
have no idea that you
Not yet.
found?
Not yet.
Oh,
They know, several of the ones that have been impacted have been emailing, asking questions about, what's the solution, if you find the solutions, that kind of thing. But we're going to be letting them know about the work, what it is and what the work is, and that there'll be activity next week to get it done.
okay.
But can't do it this week, the weather's just not cooperating.
No.
Cooperative.
No,
Let's see, we mentioned the school resource officer program. So again, thanks to Chief Austin for all the hard work. That was a long road that you went through to work to this place, but it's nice when it all comes together and, a success. So great job. And I just want to mention Veolia water rate case for the public. There is a notice of a joint proposal that is public now, and that's for, it's also a point that joint proposal, they're soliciting public comment on that. It's a 4-year resolution from February 1st of this year through December 31st of 2027. The levelized increase is basically 5.9% per year. Comments are requested to the Public Service Commission by March 1st of this year, and it's a joint proposal, Veolia, Public Service Commission trial staff, Rye City, Rye Brook, Portchester, and some other agencies, and there will be still a separation, and the proposal is a separation of rates between our area being Rye City, Portchester, and Rye Brook, and the New Rochelle rates that's more advantageous to our district. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Chris. Any other comments from the public? Michael, I feel bad you've been here and haven't said anything. Any other questions or comments from the board?
No.
All right, the next meetings of the Board of Trustees are February 13th and February 27th, 2024. Thank you and good night.
Night.